On this week's episode, we are traveling to Humbarine in the Core Worlds, where we will discuss Galen Erso's college town, Papa Palps, as always, and General Grievous's lust for planetary destruction. On with the show! Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Lady Qi'ra's Galactic Adventure, where we traverse the universe in our Correlian Corvette Cruiser, the Vindicator. I am, of course, your host on this excursion, Admiral Qi'ra Bandati of the Alliance to Restore the Republic. This time, we are continuing our exploration of the interior as we travel to the planet Humbarine. If you have no questions, comments, or concerns, then make sure to remember to no squeeze, bad baby, that Luke Skywalker is a literal cinnamon bun in every single way, and that Boba Fett is baby girl. This week on Lady Qi'ra's Galactic Adventure. If you have been around the metaphorical block before, you know that we first start out with the undescriptive planetary Disney canon, and then move on to the legend stuff if relevant from there. So let's get right into this. In canon, Humbarine is a terrestrial planet located at M10 in the galactic grid. There isn't much of a physical description in the canon, but we do know of one non-sentient species native to it, the Sickenid. It's sickening. The Sickenid is sickening. I have no idea what they look like, except that they have been smuggled off the planet before. And I'll be honest, there isn't much concrete history that isn't painfully linked to a strange Z-plot in a book that may or may not be canon anymore, but there is one major thing about Humbarine that has impacted the greater Star Wars universe as a whole, kind of. That one thing is the Humbarine Academy of Advanced Studies, which, although we don't know much about it, was once attended for higher study by Galen Erso, head engineer for the Project Death Star, aka Project Stardust, head engineer for Project Stardust, aka the Death Star. I read ahead in my script, sorry. By the time the Galactic Civil War began, Humbarine was considered an ancient and highly conservative world that was supportive of Palpatine's reign. After his death, Humbarine would get incorporated into the shattered remnants of the Empire and probably the First Order. And that's everything I have in canon, so if you could do me a favor and reach underneath your seats for your Legends lenses so we can learn some more about this place. Before we cover the planet itself, it's time for everyone's second favorite segment. It's System Time.
It's System Time.
The Humbarine system is located at M10 in the Galactic Grid's Humbarine sector along the Trellin trade route, which we haven't covered yet. The Trellin trade route passed by the planets Trellin, obviously, Humbarine, Commonor, Rasteris, and finally Zeltros, which I believe is in the Outer Rim. This route was made to bypass a giant nebula, the Marasa Nebula, that had people living inside of it, ? You can live in a nebula? Let me know. I don't know who's gonna let me know, but let me know. Okay. Those people were conquered by the later Galactic Empire, who then forced them to teach their pilots how to fly through the nebula. Classic Imperial subjugation first thing in the morning. Gotta love it, you know? Gotta love it. For more information about my disdain for imperialistic tropes, go check out the Gadalenta episode where I go on a 20-minute rant on slavery being a problematic trope in Star Wars and how we should move away from it. Anyways, Humbarine is the only known planet in the Humbarine system, and I don't even have a name for its sun, so we have no place to go but back to the planet itself. Fun fact. Pow. Pow! Humbarine is a city planet, or an ecumenopolis for the deep cut. Shout out to the BIS Hyperspace Tract episode, my very first episode. Also, shout out to the Coruscant episode where I go into that again, because Coruscant is also an ecumenopolis. Wow. Even in Legends, there isn't much of a physical description for Humbarine, so it's actually time for everyone's most favorite segment. It's history time. Humbarine was first settled in sleeper ships from Kuwait, which there was surprisingly little information on when we covered Kuwait on this show, which is strange because many of the core worlds, with a few exceptions like Coruscant, were settled by those sleeper ships, but whatever. Over time, as Humbarine grew in power, they were able to create colonies of their own. Just don't ask me when this happened, because their time frame for this planet is simultaneously all over the place and non-existent. These colonies collectively came to be called, quote, the Humbarine Rule, end quote, but would eventually fade when planets like Balmora and Commodore would declare their independence. We will cover said planets when we reach the colonies region, which is going to be kind of soon, by the way. Kind of soon. Relatively soon. Relative. Everything is relative, right? But when hyperdrive technology was, quote, reverse engineered, what the heck does that mean, and adopted by the galaxy, Humbarine was one of the first worlds to send explorers into what was then uncharted space. Imagine living in a time when people were discovering a hyperspace technology, and like the amount of mistakes that must have been made. Right? Because we talk about the dangers of hyperspace travel all the time in Star Wars. We talk about it like every episode of the Clone Wars. Not every episode, but most episodes of Clone Wars. Because Anakin Skywalker's stupid little plans. And, you know, for people to just know that you would burn up into a million pieces by flying in hyperspace towards the sun, like someone must have done that in the past to post on some kind of prehistoric TikTok. He did it for the Vine. Wow, that was the lamest thing I think I've ever said. But you can imagine just how expensive all that hyperspace travel must have been at the time. Because not only was hyperspace the hip new mode of transportation, it was also needed to convene the first meeting of the Galactic Republic, to which Humbarine is a founding member. Yes, we're back at this. I have to update my spreadsheets to be more specific, actually, especially on who is a founder of the Galactic Republic, because I feel like in the core worlds, everyone is the first to do something, yet everyone does the same things. I will not be elaborating. Early on in the Republic's history, though, at around 24,000 BBY, the Tianese War broke out, an 100-years-long conflict between the Galactic Republic and the Honorable Union of Dezevro, and Tian, which we aren't going to get into here, but maybe I'm going to start getting into wars and conflicts and such from the Star Wars on my Patreon. Stay to the end for more information on that if you are interested. You're probably wondering, gentle listener, how does this war we aren't covering relate to Humbarine? Great question, and I'm gonna give you an answer. Ready? As the Tianese forces began their conquest of the core worlds, Humbarine was home to shipyards and began producing warships to the Republic. I know, how anticlimactic. But not in the same way as Kuwait. Kuwait's entire economy was based on their shipbuilding industry. Humbarine is just like, yeah, we dabble. It's a hobby. God, I'm so mentally ill right now. Speaking of war, though, Humbarine would also remain loyal to Coruscant during the Alcicon conflicts, even though they did pity Alcicon. Which, for more clarity on those conflicts, you can head on over to whatever streaming platform you listen to and go listen to my Alcicon episode. It is entitled, quote, Alcicon has a lot of conflicts, end quote, because the conflicts lasted literally thousands of years. They started in 17,000 BBY and didn't end until, what was that, like 3,000 BBY? It's ridiculous. And the only thing I learned from that video is that Alcicon and Coruscant need couples therapy. I say this all the time. I say this like every episode. I know, it's boring, but like, I had fun. Arrestinel's also in that episode. She's going to be appearing on more stuff over on the Patreon, because she's going to have her own little show again. Stay tuned to the end to hear more about Patreon if you're interested. Look, the only thing I'm going to say about Alcicon conflicts, just so we all have a basic little bit of information on it right now, so we're all kind of on the same level, is that since so little of the galaxy was explored at that time, like a decent amount, but not like a lot, the core specifically was split up by the hyperspace lanes that ran through it, right? creating an area of space known as, quote, the slice. Like a pizza slice, which was heavily disputed over by Coruscant and Alzicon, because their planets were resource rich. You know how war starts. We get it. We're living it. Every day. Wow, that was so sad. I'm so Gen Z, I'm sorry. But that is an oversimplification of events. But it's enough. I'm done talking about that. Skipping forward a few thousand years to the Jedi Sith Wars and the new Sith Wars, because yes, those are different things. Linked, but different. Humbarine would remain part of the Battered Republic. You know, those wars are going to need complete separate videos, because the amount of information that, like, I have gathered in my peripheral about the Jedi Sith Wars and the effects that they had on the Jedi Order, I want to do a deep dive analysis on that if you're interested. Again, lesson for the Patreon information at the end. But skipping forward a few more thousand years, not that many though, the Sith Wars take place in around like 3000 BBY. But we're gonna be skipping forward to the Clone Wars period. That was the longest run-on sentence. I'm so sorry. We're in the Clone Wars period. Okay, Humbarine would yet again remain loyal to the Republic. I am sensing a pattern here. Do you feel that disturbance in the Force? You should. Because many of the planets in the sector began to fall to the Confederacy. But Humbarine was receiving little to no aid from the Republic, to the point where they suffered a horrible blitz attack by General Grievous, of course. Grievous himself is known to go above and beyond whenever he isn't running away, and sadly there was no Kenobi to stop him this time. So he made Humbarine suffer through an hour-long planetary bombardment, which caused the crust of the planet itself to melt, and for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of citizens to die. Wonderful. Gotta love Grievous, man. Many refugees of this attack took refuge. That's too many sorry. They went to Balmorra. The ones who survived went to Balmorra in the colonies. And despite this molten devastation caused by Grievous, after the formation of the Empire, Humbarine would fall under its control, serving as an imperial fortress world for a number of years. But do not fret, my friends, such as the population of the planet would increase after the BOE, the Battle of Endor, ranging somewhere between 10 to 100 million people in 25 ABY. And on that note, we are done here. And that is everything I have for you on Humbarine in both canon and Legends. I hope you enjoyed your journey this week and your stay so far aboard the Vindicator. If you have any questions or concerns about your stay, feel free to bring it up with one of our personnel on board via a private message or DM. Perhaps on our TikTok accounts at Shadow Collective Roles or at Unidentified Robot. Or maybe our Instagram at Lady Qi'ra. Or perhaps the review of our show on Apple Podcasts. Or perhaps, vibe in with that Jar Jar Binks style tongue of yours and lick that big red button down by the description box down below. If you do that, you'll be subscribed to my channel. And if that tongue accidentally hits that, that bell icon next to it, you'll be notified of every single time I post a new upload, but it's actually supposed to be every Monday about 6:30 a.m. Usually. All of those usernames, oh, crap, sorry, I don't know what's going on with me. Or perhaps if you want more of me, and I don't know why you would, but you could head on over to patreon.com/LadyKira Productions, and for only $5 a month, you can have access to tons of additional content in our exclusive Discord community. And including all of those series that I have planned for the near future. All of those usernames and their respective platforms will be listed in the show notes, by the way. Next time, we will be journeying to Calamus, and whatever core worlds I can cover in an hour or less. So until next time, my friends, companions, and droids, may the Force be with you all. Hey, I know you're kind of clocking out, and I don't want to take up another 50 minutes of your time. 50 minutes? That was like 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm being dramatic. I do want to apologize for not posting last week. I'm having some stomach issues that are kind of normal for me, but still very not comfortable. And, the espresso depresso. You know how it is. You know how it is. I will try to give more advance if I do need to take a week off. I just did not want to go on social media. The only thing I've been doing when I've been in pain is watching old BuzzFeed Worth It videos. And about to eat their new channel because I'm obsessed with Andrew Wilnicki. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. And watching The Last of Us and crying. Let me know if you're watching The Last of Us and crying because I am crying so hard. Yeah, I think we're done here. Okay, bye.